Hi guys, welcome to Hope Channel. Welcome to The Identity. My name is Samuel Mangi and thank you for joining us. In the last episode, we got to discuss about youth in service and we got to learn pretty much a lot on how you can grow in service. Now today we're going to be discussing about modern youth. You know, there's a lot that is happening that is challenging us, especially on religious grounds. In today's panel, we have Yvonne Alfreda. She's a professional musician. We also have Brian Otho, a student and also an entrepreneur. We also have Winnie Kilmuto. She's a student. And lastly, we have Pastor Moses Joseph, a student pursuing PhD in theology. Please remember to join into this discussion through our social media platforms. On Facebook is The Identity. Get to watch some of these clips, even behind the scenes, on our Instagram page that is at The Identity 254. Join in. It's about time. Guys, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, is it true that there's a lot that is happening in society that is a challenge to the youth, or is it just a mentality? Pastor?
I think there is a lot that is happening, especially now that the world has become smaller with technology. And so people who are in America are connected to Africa, people who are in Europe. And so we are really receiving a lot of things. And with a lot of things comes a lot of negative and positive influence that could happen. And so with that, it's really challenging the young people.
Now, borrowing it from the last episode, where we were talking about growing in Christ, and we, at the conclusion, we were looking about spiritual fanaticism and legalism. That clearly tells us that we have now become a global village, that something that is happening in the States, in South Africa, in Malawi, in Ethiopia, it can equally be impacted, rather be felt in our local country, specifically where you are. But then there's something that is more like uniform in all these countries. There's this thought of it looks and feels cool to be outside the church, to be an outsider. Winnie, have you interacted with some people who borrow this mindset?
Yeah, sure. A lot of times, you know, the concept of postmodernism has come in to the church, where people feel it's not fashionable, it's just weird to be a youth and you're in the church. So people prefer to be outside, not knowing that in the church, actually, there's a lot of fun.
Like, have you seen like some pictures of the churches in the western part? And mostly you see it's like old people with gray hair.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
That's the religion of old people. We young people have our own kind of way of doing things.
And young guys, especially, I think I've seen this in the States, where we have young pastors who go all the way to put on jeans and jackets and, you know, some kicks out, which you're like, whoa, okay, this can be integrated in the church. Please, what do you think about this?
Truth is, people are trying to use all kinds of means and ways to try and attract the youth into the church, even if it means involving the worldly kind of living, so that you just get the youth to just in case they can come, let them just come the way they are. You allow them to dress the way they want so that they can stay in church. You allow them to do whatever they want in church so that they can stay in church, which is basically, because what I understand is when someone tells you, I'm going to church, and you're in the Western Plaza, like, what did you say, church? Church is for old people. So you find tiny little children whose grandparents decided to take from their mothers so that they can live their lives, and then they come to church with them, which is I think it's really sad.
And I think to bring in, Brian, is that as much as we can see this in the West, also in our country and in Kenya, there's something about it, because you find few people who are really sucked up of about the gospel when they're young. But then somewhere in between 20s and 30s, something happens. Then they have, I want to call it a tragic revelation, you know, a moment like, okay, now I need to go back to. Why is that so?
It's because you see, everyone has a journey, right? And we are all, each and every day we are growing. And I can even borrow it from my personal experience. I was born a Christian. I enjoyed Christianity from a younger age, but then along the line, I decided, now, what have I really been living? I mean, what is this? Is it real? Is it, who am I?
And or is it something that has been imposed to you?
Yeah, was it imposed to me? And that's when you realize that whatever was given to you was just to guide you for your journey ahead. So that's when that's where you find people doing various things, because they, especially from what Pastor said, today the world has become a very small village, right? So I can get information from anywhere. So when they see what other people are doing from different parts of the world, you try to integrate that to try and fit and see if whatever they're doing could be something that you can also buy. Yeah.
You mentioned something about your experience, and I want to a little bit dig in deep. And you said that they got to a time where you more of pulled back and asked yourself, okay, what is this? What did that necessitate you, rather to borrow from experience? Did that necessitate you to draw from the church and, you know, have to deal with the world and what the world has to offer?
Yeah. At that time, based on the principles that had been given to me, my mind was like, now let me step back. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do what somebody is telling me, because I realize that some people, whatever I borrow, might only stress me at the end of the day, because I might not really achieve what those people are doing in my life, because different places, different people with different capabilities, you see. And so I decided to step back and just be me. I even put religion aside and said, now let me just think it on my own, right? Like you could call me an atheist also. But in my journey I was like, where is all this leading me to? I mean, who am I? Who is Brian? You see?
You took into the logical train.
Yes.
Let me bring in Minnie as a
I think the challenge is we struggle to find an identity.
Yes.
And I keep saying that youth look for an identity, and when they feel like they can't belong, they run to somewhere else where they will belong. And because the world offers instant gratification, they run to the world. Compared to the slow, you know, in church it's laid back and you have to take a moment at a time.
Progressive gratification.
Yeah.
And something else, oh, sorry. And something else, people, a person who is in that state, you see, most of the things that we want to emulate, we find them from social media. But we don't realize that the same people who are posting those things are also looking for gratification.
Yeah.
So you end up, it's like a doctor who's sick and going to a fellow doctor who is also suffering from the same disease, and he's seeking for solution. I mean, that's crazy.
Actually, they say this, you know, we are empty beings and we want to be fed. That's why actually Instagram has a feed for you to be fed for whatever you're looking for. Yeah.
I was saying that he talked about the social media. It was part of what I wanted to say. But apart from that, you find magazines, television, everything that we see has basically been put there for us. That's what is being sold to all of us as cool. So when someone grows up and they get to teenagehood, into youth, and they see this is what is being offered and this is what is termed as cool, that is why you find most people leave church, because church does not show cool.
They have a perception of that is their life,
That is
instead
the
of
cool. That is
instead
the
of
cool.
realizing that being in Christ is the life. Pastor.
And I think what Satan has done, he has brought in so many different types of experimentations that people could do out there. Before, you know, people were not so crazy because they didn't have this knowledge of what could go on. But even I have friends who have become agnostic, or like they don't believe that God is there. Some like, and you know, when you just type on Google, like, of how can you doubt God? Oh my word, you have a lot of things there, and it fuels your doubt. And so I think that this the way that you said it's a global village, he has provided an avenue for many of the young people, for us to say, maybe I should try something different from God. And this leads us to a very dangerous path, which very many get lost.
Which more of brings a mental picture of the road to heaven is
Narrow.
but then the road to hell is big. I mean, you have a plethora, you have a choice, you have a range of choices. And then I want to go to our local church, you know, and speak about one of the challenges that I think and I see personally, from a personal experience, that is a challenge to us. There's this whole point of a social class placement, you know. I don't know, you're a member of the church.
Yes.
Is this happening in your church?
We have cliques, depending. If you have a car, you have a particular clique. If your English is a bit polished, you have a particular clique. If you're from a particular school, at times you have a particular clique. It depends on if you went to the same university, you have a particular clique, and you find that there are social classes that have been created depending on what you have. The richer you have, the richer you are, the more you have friends who are also rich. Like you can't find someone who's from low class, like who's sort of struggling in life and hanging out with someone who's really rich. At times you find it is quite hard, but unfortunately that's cutting through all over, like all the youths, all over the churches, all the universities, wherever we are, you find that people relate mostly with the people of their same social class.
Somebody would say that this only happens in Kenya. Pastor, you come from Tanzania. Is this also happening in Tanzania?
Yes, I could see that there are people who are very influential, and you know, if you associate yourself with those people, then you're good. Like, and if you go against those people, then things will not work. Like, this is mostly to do with church administration and etc. But I also see it in young people, where the young people who have jobs and young people who don't have jobs who are still looking, that could also be a challenge.
I think also that goes down to even I'm sitting and looking at my youth group. You have people who are in school. These are campus guys. Yeah. These are O-level guys or high school guys, depending on what level you are at. And is this really a bad thing, Winnie?
No, well, it is actually two-sided. It's actually bad. I'll start with the bad side. It's bad because, you know, when you have them cliques and visitors come, you know, we are called to be witnesses. When visitors come, they'll notice that, you know, I can't fit in because there are clusters. And the visitor won't know where to join. Maybe I'm a first time, I've just walked into this church and to find God, but I can't find because I'm seeing people segregated. People are busy. And then you end up losing the soul. And Sema, in that church, I can't fit in. So I gotta leave. I go back to the world just like that.
I once had this experience. I went to a church. I wouldn't mention which church. But then during lunchtime, you know, in Africa, we have this tendency of, because it's lunch, we need to go and eat together, you know. And apparently, being in that church, you know, there's some churches that you go in and, you know, everybody notices, we have a visitor, you know. But this church, I went there for almost a month. Nobody knew I was a visitor. I'm like, okay. Maybe it's because they had a huge population. But then, even with the youth, I mean, you can easily say, oh, you're a new guy, you know. It wasn't there. And then now for the lunchtime session, of course, I have to say I was hungry. You know, I was there at 8, I was hungry. But then, during lunch hour, I realized, people just went to their small cliques. Some small cliques. I was wondering, okay, for me, you know, I had a level of understanding of, you know. But then I was wondering, just as you said, for somebody who doesn't know God and desires to have an experience, then comes to a church and sees this, you know, where would he fit in? I mean, the first thing would be, you will just think of an exit. Where is the one? For sure, he's not going to come back. Brian.
Well, on that note, there are different ways that you can look at it, and there are a lot of dynamics that play in. I mean, the Church of God is always growing and light into light, right? Yes, this, I think it boils down, for example, to those of us who have understood how these things work. I mean, if it was me in your case, I will take an example for myself. If it was me in your case, having understood how human beings are, and people are empty, like my sister said, all right, and people are looking for something to identify themselves with, and they are also social beings. So having understood how these things work, I'd be the one to break the barrier, you see. I'd go and just get to know and you know, interact with them, because I believe, you see, like, let me take the example of Christ. Christ knew so well that these people are having a problem. They are not social, etc., etc. He could just come in and, you know, get to interact with guys and bring light for them. And so me, I would also take that same example. I'd go there just, I understand their situation. Maybe they just don't know how to go about such things. There's a visitor in town, but some of them are like, how do we go about this? I mean, maybe the elders said we should take these things easy. Maybe it's a stranger, and matters of security nowadays, you can't just do things. So I think for different dynamics, sometimes it calls for spiritual
as I bring
discernment.
as I bring in, Pastor, you know, there's a young guy who's going to watch and say, you know, okay, what we're clearly saying is that this is an issue that is in existence.
Yeah.
We're not saying it's a good one.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, we're not saying it's a good one, but how we react to it will basically tell more of where we are at. You know, I strongly don't believe it's a good reason for a young guy to leave church.
No.
Pastor, please bring your insight.
Yes, I think that it's a double-edged sword, in a sense that there is a part for a person to play, but let's think about not a youth in church, but someone who's just coming into church.
Okay.
Maybe you just invited your friend for a while, and they just happen to go to one of this church. Sometimes, as young people, we need to be able to survey our fellow young people who we see around and ensure that we bring them up, because you don't know how long the person has not been going to church, or maybe it's even their first time. They can't just take the initiative to go and now start talking to families and everything. We have to make sure that we show them Christ's love, and we don't treat them as though they're Christian, but we treat them because we're Christians. So even if they're not dressed right, or even if they don't fit into that category that we have of what we would interact with, we need to break that barrier and go to them and ensure that we show them Christ's love, that even if they don't come back to church, they would always have a positive experience of coming to your church.
True. You know, that also brings the light to something that I was sharing with a friend of mine who apparently she's from that church, and then I was telling her this, and I said, this is your church, you know. I don't say this is your church, and she was like, no, man, she was like, let us move from that mentality, and you know, let's break these chains and realize that it's not about the church, it's about who I am. What is my responsibility in the modern society, in the modern youth? Winnie, as I bring you in, please
I
add
had
insight.
something to say. You know, there's something I learned recently, that when you're praying, you should always pray for a divine appointment. Even when you're going to church, you never know who you're going to meet. And as you've prayed for it, always be on the lookout, because you never know who God has appointed for you. So as a youth and you're in church, look out. Just check. You'll find someone.
Amen. Also in the same light, I think there are very many other challenges that happen, and I want to look at it in the youth society. That for those people who have already gone and identified with a group, you know, and there's always this feeling of, you know, Bran is a good preacher, you know, she's a good usher, but what can I do? You know, I'm just an introvert. You know, what do you have to say about that?
Most of the time, at least in my church, we usually have a recording of there's something called AYP, and you write what you do as a career. Like they've taken records of what everyone does in the church. When you come in, it's put in the record sheet for the personal ministries. So every time they do even church selection on who is doing what, they go through that and they see people's strengths. There are people who are quiet, but they're actually good at ushering and smiling and welcoming people to church. There are people who are quiet, who can actually work well in the treasury because they don't really relate well with people. So when you have an opportunity, for example, your church doesn't have this, create the opportunity among the youth so that you can be able to know what is the strengths with these people. And then we have things like Social Sunday, whereby you find people are together, people introduce themselves, what they do, and you'll come to realize when you interact with people, you'll come to know, okay, this person is quiet, but this is their strength and this is their weakness. And that is how they can be able to be offered what to be able to do in the service.
Pastor?
Nothing that if you don't do anything, you will literally just be dying out. So
You want to be growing.
you won't be
spiritually.
growing, and you won't feel a part of a church, and it will be even easier for you to go out. But with this global village, as we call it, there are so many innovative ways of young people to be involved in the church. They could be able to do different things, go to the prison. If you're extrovert, even if you're introvert, you can create cards, whatever it is. There are so many different opportunities that are out there. And so don't feel like, okay, I need to be led. I need to follow what the pastor is saying, what the youth leader is saying. Find a place for yourself that I want to contribute towards helping the church grow.
It's more of taking an initiative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be responsible.
That's right.
In this day and age, we cannot afford to think in a piped way.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, I'd say that as much as we were talking about modernization, right? I mean, modernization has come with social media once again, and I realize for some reason, I think social media has really made us to forget, or rather not to cultivate our social interactions, because we most of the time, I've realized this for myself. I mean, most of the time where I'm chatting with a person on WhatsApp or Facebook, but then when we meet, it's like, do I really know you? You can't talk.
You're
you
detached
can't,
from
you
the
don't-
reality.
Those things that you could say on social media, you can't now say them like face to face. So we've forgotten that. We've not really cultivated on our
Person-to-person interaction.
yeah, person-to-person interactions, and so we rely on social media most of the time. So you find people expressing themselves more on social media against
The person-to-person,
personal-
face-to-face.
yeah,
And I think
face-to-face.
this, I will probably re-echo it. We're in a generation, a society, a space where we cannot afford to think like our old folks. You know, the time is now. When you speak about modern youth, it's about using the opportunities that are given to us, that are in the circles right now, that we can use them to explore ministry. But then I sit and also think about, you know, as much as I said, you have different talents. There are people who think now because Brian is a good preacher, or rather, when now pastor is he's a pastor, you know, all that, he's superior. Isn't that a challenge?
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's actually a challenge.
But
really a
I
challenge.
think it's only a mindset.
Yeah.
Please add voice, Winnie.
Yeah, you know, God gives gifts in different ways, like the parable of the talents. There's one who's given 5, there's one who's given 2, there's one who's given 1. And all of them were given at the same measure, you know. You're given singing, you're given preaching, I'm given smiling. My smile may save a soul. You come to church and then I just smile to the person and the person is like, wow, that person ushered me so well. She may sing and her soul maybe saved. He may preach and the soul may be saved. Our goal should be saving souls. Whatever talent you have, hata kama ni kuandika vitabu, even if it's writing books, it's a talent.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know for to that lady. Would you please smile so that? Pastor, please add voice as you come
I
to
just
Brian.
wanted to say very quickly that it has to be intentional.
Yes.
You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to be quiet and just smile. You have to actually be intentional that I need to make sure that anyone who looks gloomy, I'm going to make sure at least 10 people, I'm going to them, I'm bringing the love of Jesus. So whatever the youth need to be intentional. They should not just sit back. They need to be intentional with what they're doing for the glory of God.
Spread the
Brian.
cheer.
And again, I believe, this is something that I've come to really appreciate and believe, that the church is there to mold our talents to be the talents that God would really use. You see, if I take us to the Bible, there's a place where Paul says that to many he has given prophecy, he has given us different kinds of talents. Meaning, and in Paul's time, those are the talents that Paul knew, right? And so with the time, God is revealing light that there are also this and that and this and that, and then they can be used in ministry. So I believe also the church should realize that when a person, a youth comes to church and presents their talents, well, culturally maybe the talents that they have presented might not really be in agreement with what the church thinks, but they should take this person and make them
Mold
better,
them.
mold them make use of that talent that they have
Yeah.
to bring souls to Christ.
And
Sure.
truthfully, there are very many people who have these amazing talents, but because the church has not seen the best way to use them, they have been shunned out. And I
Yes.
think it's a challenge to the church and also to the youth to come out and speak and, put their abilities and gifts for Christ. Now we are going for a short break, but after the break, we'll be speaking about some of the postmodernism changes. And I'll just give you one to give you a tip of what you're going to be discussing. There's a huge wave that has been going on of women empowerment. Has it come to church? And if so, what are the effects? Join us after the break.
Interesting.
Show!
joining us again. You're watching The Identity, and we do hope that you are being blessed. Now, we also hope that that talent segment was a blessing to you guys. It's an encouragement for you guys to join into the conversation on our social media platforms. On Facebook is The Identity. Get to watch some of these clips and behind the scenes, which are really hilarious, on at The Identity 254. Now, before the break, I had alluded to women empowerment, which is a beautiful thing, isn't it? Ladies, isn't it? I like how amazing you guys are like, I see how I just started off a choir. Somebody will ask, you know, we can portray women empowerment as a good thing, but is it all healthy? Brian?
Women empowerment.
Yeah.
Women empowerment is healthy as long as please, as long as
NB note
NB,
underline.
as long as it's within limits that are okay with the society.
What do you mean, man? Hey, bro.
Yes. You see, there's that aspect of feminism. You see, and so most of the time people misapply the other. Okay, they like think feminism is women empowerment, and women empowerment is feminism. So along that line, you find that
Probably I think it's about time that we should create that difference.
Yes.
What is women empowerment?
Yes.
What is feminism?
Yes.
Pastor, you want to come in?
Well, I don't know if I should let the ladies comment on this first.
Probably.
Yes.
What do you think, Winnie?
Well, this is very interesting. I was just telling these guys the way my mentor is a feminist, but she empowers.
And they were like, okay, now bring it.
Yeah, they're like, bring
it.
There are aspects I agree with and there are aspects I don't agree with. Empowerment is a positive word that I like using. Empowering is positive. You are enhancing someone's growth in life. And that's not something that is bad. When you're educating someone and you're motivating someone and you're empowering them to get to a higher level, it's not something bad, is it?
No.
Okay.
Okay, let me
What
let
is
her speak
femini-
first, and I want to say something.
What's your understanding of women empowerment and feminism?
Personally, I'll not lie. I think feminism most of the time is usually too extreme. It's all about I can do bad all by myself. It's me, myself, and I. As a woman,
God,
I don't
please.
need a man. Empowerment is more of giving the woman or the girl child. Hey, finally we've mentioned this in the show. Girl child, giving them the opportunities of life, food, shelter, clothing, education, career opportunities. That is empowering them to be able to do the things that they need to do. But when it gets to a point, let me not continue because I'll start thinking, but that's my understanding. You asked what's my understanding.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Faster,
All
jump
right.
in.
I was letting them speak first because I wanted to also comment something that we have to also trace where did women empowerment come from and where did feminism come from. Now, even though I have to make a disclaimer that there are some aspects, many aspects of feminism that I strongly disagree with, there are some good aspects, which one of them comes along with women empowerment. This is one of the aspects that feminism movement was driving. Now, as you said, there is some extremism to it where it says, you know what, I can do it all by myself. I don't need anyone else. We actually don't need you. But I think that there are some principles that were derived from the feminism movement. Until now, we talk about women empowerment. Like, I mean, I don't know who will trace women empowerment. I know we'll go back and we'll trace Jesus himself. That's why I wanted to talk about what Brian said, and I wanted to put it that it's not just about what the culture, but it's also what the Bible. Let's look at the example of Jesus and how he uplifted women.
Amen, amen.
And follow that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a feminist. My friend who's watching will just say, Sam, stop lying. You hate feminists, you know. But then this is my take. This is just my personal take. Women empowerment is beautiful. It's beautiful, sorry. It's beautiful. There's nothing wrong about empowering women. But then empowering women in the expense of the other, that's dangerous. And I think that's where I think that's also has also come closely to the church, and even in the element of challenging issues like ordination. I would not want us to go through. Let us not go through that. Let's not go down that road. But then just Please,
But I want to bring it to church as you are trying to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I think that this is something that is greatly needed. I would love to hear more preachers,
Amen.
like more
Amen.
preachers who are women, more people who are going up at the pulpit, more people who are leading out ministries, because they are also gifted and talented. But even though we talk about it, this is why we also negate it, but we don't really see it as young people, and I think it's discouraging.
somebody will watch and say, you guys have not probably, dissected that whole feminism and given it a raw feel, a rawness that is truly felt at home. There's somebody who will watch and say, feminism to the experiences that these are women who say, I do not need a man. I can do this by myself. Is that the case? Because I know the origin, because having gone through some few articles about feminism, it all started off from a good point, let us empower a woman. It's more of, because women have been suppressed for a very long time, and they generally have good talents and good things that the society can benefit from.
Yeah.
That's my understanding from its origin. But then how it has amalgamated to the current feminism that we see today is totally different. But then genuinely, let's go raw. Let's go raw on it.
During the break, we were having an argument here already about this. It has gotten to a point when you talk about women, I can do bad all by myself. It goes to a point whereby, yes, you have your own money, so you're sorted. You have your own house, so you're sorted. You want a child, you go get a sperm donor, plant yourself, sorted. When you feel like you want to have a sexual desire sorted out, you get sex toys sorted. Like, it has gotten to a point whereby we have moved away from God's original plan of a woman in the house. Or in the society generally. That's how far it has gotten. And you find someone saying, I'll never get married, I don't need a man in my life, which is not true, because originally, if I think correctly and I know my Bible correctly, the man was the lady was just created to be a helpmate of the man. Now when you remove that, who are you helping? It's just a question.
Pastor.
Maybe I'm really battling with how you're putting feminism, because I know of feminists, especially like there's some strong authors that I'm following. Example, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she's married, and she also talks about that concept that when people say feminism, they think it's people who don't shave, they don't need men, they don't need everything. But you could see in her speeches, even though she's proclaimed herself as a feminist, yet she talks about this aspect that, what if your child wants to be a civil engineer? Would you tell her no because she's a lady, that this is a field for men? And she just wants that empowerment aspect. So as I'm saying is that I'm sure that many of our followers also are following some of these people. And so let's not make feminism as all bad, because there are some people who are proclaiming themselves to be so, and it is actually good. It's actually women empowerment. So I'm saying that the wrong side of feminism, the extreme side, is the wrong side.
Let me throw in something into this discussion, and I like how it's flowing. For me, the whole battle of feminism has always been on the question of equality. Women, there's that sphere of we are equal to men. But then when it comes to the religious part, is it so? And there's another point of view too. But before I give my thoughts on it,
Wait,
please come in.
actually, the author she has just mentioned says that for you to be a feminist, you're not supposed to deem men lower than you. You're just supposed to be an empowering being, You're empowering women, not to dim them down, but to empower. That's what I wanted to add.
Wow, okay. Brian.
Wow.
You look lost in thought. You are...
I've really been thinking about this whole thing about feminism and empowerment. And this is what I think. Wow. Everything in this world, I've learned that everything begins from a very humble state, and everything is geared towards to help humanity and make people live better and improve the state of things. Well, empowerment for me now, based on how pastors put it, well, I have a dividing line, and this is how I look at it. empowerment begins when you want that one who has been the one who has been denied some privileges to understand that they can also have the same privileges. Now, when you come to the feminism part of it, you see, when you're given a chance to acquire some certain privileges, you'll feel like, now that I've been given this, I should look like those people who have always been given this privilege. So I'm a lady, I want to look like a man, you know. You know, I have now this opportunity, so let me go there and show them that even ladies can look like a man, you know, we can handle this like men, right? So that I think that's where we should now make things right and tell the ladies it's okay, you can pursue, for example, engineering and be a lady. You don't have to go to the extremes where you
put on
want
some
to
pants and
lift
go
up some press ups and you want to look like that man kind of person.
Actually, one time we were discussing with my friend Alfred about it. They were like, you know, it comes down to the aspect of equality in opportunity.
Yes.
In terms
It's
of
about
basic,
equality of opportunity.
Opportunity,
in basic needs like water, you know, food, education, all those things, we are not supposed to, like, say men get more opportunities on this than female, but you know.
As I bring in, I think that more of makes sense to our discussion in this light, that personally I have always had an issue with women who think that we are equal to men. You know, we are equal from a God's view. You know, we're only equal from a God's view. But then, but about relational, we are equal because we are human beings. But then, in reference to the opportunities that we have, for one thing that can be said generally, in Africa, not all women get to do the career that men are doing. And I think that is one thing that it should be given equally to everyone. But then to the point of where the woman now wants to prove that what a man can do,
A woman
can
can
woman
do
can
better.
do better. Now that is, you know, for me that is a
Well,
pastor.
That is a problem when in any sort, even if a man is trying to prove that they can do a better job than a woman, there's a problem with that as well. I think we need to go through it in a spiritual aspect, in a spiritual eye, that what would Jesus do, as I was saying.
Amazing.
And one thing that I just wanted to highlight is that we were created equal.
Yes.
I wanted to say that it's really man and woman were created all
Equal.
both in the image of God. Nobody was created after the image of another, but the image of God. But of course, in the beginning, God assigned different roles, and you could see that these roles, it was not that one is a bigger and a better role than the other, but these were equally big roles that
They were
showed,
heavy roles.
that showed that women were also given massive roles, the same as men. So I think that that's really important.
and
Okay, please. Now you can discuss some issues as well. Who's going to talk first?
okay, let me empower the woman.
Nice.
You can go first.
No, when he was talking about the roles, I remember there was a book I was reading that was called Fascinating Womanhood, and it brought in the aspect of the man being the provider, protector, and the lady being the homemaker, and there was something very interesting that came out in that book, that it is equal yet not equal. Everyone just needs to understand what they were created for. In that, I will not try and start protecting my husband because apparently the rib that's missing is on the side of the protection and all that stuff. But when you look at it, when you're able to fit into what you were created for, there won't be this fight.
Very true, Brian. Advoices are...
I wanted to add this. Pastor mentioned about creation, and when God created, by the way, it's clear they were all equal. But something that it does not necessarily mean that the balance was changed, but after sin, kind of the thing changed. The equality kind of changed. You will be subjected to this and this and that. But we see that God did not really diminish anyone. It is just a change of roles. And if we understand correctly, the woman was supposed to be a what? A helper. Now, let me. When we go back to the woman can do better what men can do. So far, I've seen such successful marriages, even for the old guys. They will tell you one thing: without this lady,
Because
I
you're
can't
not
do it.
I
Very
can't
true.
do it.
Very
So,
true.
so we women were given to men. For me to help you, if you have a problem, I should be in a better state. I should be stronger than you in some way, because you're also strong, but you're already weak in an area. So I'm supposed to help you.
I think-
so how will I help you if I'm less of a?
I think what we can say, what a man can do, no woman can do. What a woman can do, no man can do. Because they are all made with different roles, and all these roles are meant to complement each other.
each other.
Yes.
Actually,
And-
the
and-
aspect of submitting one to another.
Yeah.
If you submit one to another, you'll complement each other.
Yeah.
Most important.
And just adding to this train of thought is that even if a man does what a woman does, they will not do it the same way that the woman will do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not saying that a man cannot do what a woman can do, but
They
like,
wouldn't do it like.
they won't do it like.
With
So
the
we have all
efficiency
been
that, yeah.
blessed. We've
Yeah.
all been blessed with different gifts, as we
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
We are all a part of a society, and it's a society of God, and God has blessed us with different gifts, men and women, and we need to respect each other.
Let's not compare and compete.
Yeah.
Let's complement.
That's
and
right.
Let's grow together.
Yeah.
And this, and this analogy also, because we have spoken about it in a fair view, general view, but then this thought of women empowerment and the thought of feminism has equally hit the church really hard. And let's localize this knowledge and let's realize that we are all made in the image of God and we all have a purpose to serve. So let us not bring this comparison in church. Instead, let's complement each other and let us all work to the glory of God. One other challenge that is really affecting the modern youth right now is this thought that the church is too wicked. Now for that reason, I'll rather stay at home, tune into Hope Channel or whatever channel that you subscribe to, watch some lessons, pray, and you're good with the guy upstairs.
It's laziness.
The guy upstairs. Brad.
Yes.
Bring it.
I really relate with that because when I was in my quest to seek, that was something I did. And there was this time, it was on a Sabbath, and my aunt was like, hey, are we going to church? And I'm like, hey, I'm coming. You'll see me there in a few. But then I stuck in the house and I'm like, I'm not going to church. I don't want to look like a hypocrite in church. I'm there, but I don't believe in God. So I just said, let me just watch Family TV today. There's the channel Family TV. So let me just watch it and see if there's anything there. And I want to believe that God is in the business of saving man, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what situation you are in, he'll always be there. He will always be there to save you even from that. So I was there and I was watching this TV, and the message that was there really changed my thought process from that time. From that time, it like paved a way for me for whatever I was going to face through. So it necessarily isn't that bad. It isn't that bad if you look at it from the positive side of view. But on the negative side, I couldn't ask questions because there was a question I had, and I really wanted somebody to answer me that time. As the person was giving the word on TV, and I couldn't ask. So when you don't go to church and you don't meet other people, you can't share and you can't ask questions, it becomes a challenge because you'll be yourself and you cannot guarantee yourself that you will remember the same question and ask it when you leave.
We're all destined for the same place,
Yes.
which is heaven, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that when you take an analogy that the church is like a hospital of sinners, you don't say that there's too many sick people in the hospital. I don't want to go there. You know, when you recognize that you're sick, you know you need to be in the hospital. And when you're in hospital, you don't go like, okay, my hand has a problem, but man, this guy is paralyzed, you know, like he's worse.
Let me go.
Or you don't compare each other. And we go back to the previous episode of hypocrisy. So basically, I'm thinking that nobody should have that excuse. We all need to be in church because this is a hospital where people can get better, and not just get better for the world, but get better for eternity. We'll never get perfect. So let's recognize each other and complement each other.
One thing, okay, please add.
And someone at that state is not stable to just keep watching. You know, the devil knows and he's targeting our minds.
Uh-huh.
And now that he knows he cannot just come and take Alfreda's mind out, because you know the frontal lobe is your seat of reasoning, your seat of choice, your seat of judgment, and he knows because Alfreda, I'll just check her, man, stay home, watch Hope Channel. But then when you're watching there, he'll just tell your Alfreda,
Your
There's-
bed.
I mean, this
Your
thing
bed.
is so boring.
Get a
I mean, you
There's
can
a
always tune to
movie.
something else.
Get a movie.
Yeah, then your brain shifts and then you concentrate on other things that
Yeah.
are not godly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also, one thing that will come out clearly in this discussion is that a church, there's nothing wrong with the church. It's the people who are in it. You know, the church it's God's church.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not my church, it's not my mama's church. There's no way I can claim ownership to it. It's God's church.
Yeah.
The problem is the people. So the people are going to church to get sorted.
Yeah.
You know, we have all gone to the doctor. So let us not look at the patients. Let's
Yeah.
look at the doctor.
And something else I would add to that is that let's take our battles to the right person.
Yes.
True.
When you're facing such kind of difficulties, instead of looking at the church as somebody's church, you should be taking the fight to God because He's ready for the challenge. Yeah, He's ready for the challenges, and I call it God on trial. You know, you should be like.
Are you speaking from personal experience? And if so, please bring it.
Yes. I'm speaking from personal experience because I always that it's my guiding principle ever since I was young. That if I have a problem with somebody, I don't go to other people or I don't bring other people into it. I take it to the person directly, even when I didn't know God. That is, so you can imagine what I used to do. But that's besides the point. So this time you take it to God like, God, you up there, you having 10,000s of angels. I mean, you're enjoying up there, right? Okay, but I know you're not enjoying because right now I'm not going to church because of you. Take it to God. Let it be personal. Have an engagement with God.
Yeah.
God, this is your church. This is your Bible. It says this, but I'm not seeing it happening. So God, please talk to me. And if you don't talk to me, I'm not leaving this place. So be real with your God.
Yeah.
I'm not leaving this
I'm not
place.
I'm not
leaving
leaving
this
place.
place.
And pray for the
Yes.
church.
Yes.
I have friends who in some churches which I volunteer pastoring as I'm teaching, and I know that they're struggling with alcohol.
Yeah.
I know that they're struggling with partying. I know all these things, and they're still in church.
Yeah.
They're still involved in some choirs, and I know some young people are like, what? I was just with the person in the club. Why would I go to church with this same person and he's singing at the front? Why don't you pray for them? Pray for them and ask the Lord to provide an avenue for you to be able to minister to them. Because you're all sick and you need better, and look at the doctor who is Jesus.
Yeah.
As we come to a close, there was also this another analogy that affects the modern youth, and I want to bring this to you, Yvonne, because you've been, yes, amen, I agree to that. But I want to bring this to you.
Yes.
You know, some of us, the youth specifically, always come to church looking for solutions.
Yes.
But then sometimes you come to church and you seem not to find solutions. Isn't that a good exit route, or it's not?
It's not. Truth be told, I did exit, but it is not because when I came back, I found that the answers were in the church. It is not in a person, it is in a message preached, it's in a song sung, it is in a child who comes and just tells you, I love you, out of nowhere, and you're feeling, wait a minute, this is seeing the kingdom of God and the children. The exit route, you might leave and leave for good. But when you stay inside, you'll get your answers inside.
When you stay inside, you'll get your answer inside. I mean, there's no other way to speak about the challenges that are affecting the youth. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but then it's really a call for us. There's a lot that is shaking us as the youth right now. But then I would echo what has been coming out strongly in this discussion, is that going outside is not a solution. Stay in, stay put, for the hour is going to come. This reminds me of a story that is shared in John about how Jesus was sleeping in a boat. And then the disciples were busy trying to save themselves. But then, until when they realized that Christ is there, and they were like, yo, man, we are dying. Don't you care? That's when he rose and says, peace be still. Modern youth, in this generation, we have a lot that is happening. We have a lot that is going to challenge our understanding of religion, lifestyle, diet, and everything, even the church. But then, what is your choice? What would you go to? Would you leave or stay at the feet of Jesus Christ? You've come to the end of today's discussion. Please interact with us, share with us about what you think are other challenges which are affecting this church, which are affecting the youth in this generation. And until next week, you've been watching The Identity. Be blessed.